All right, let's jump right in. Today, we are going to tackle a topic that, let's be honest, can cause a little bit of a panic for even the best medical students: med math. We're going to focus specifically on IV infusion calculations, and I promise you, by the end of this, you're going to feel way more in control.
You know that feeling, right? The numbers, the units, the pressure, it's a lot. But here's the secret. There's a simple logic that works every single time. It's not about being some kind of math wizard. It's just about controlling your units. If you can do that, you can control the whole problem. And hey, you're not alone in feeling that panic. It is super common. But the good news is the solution is just as common. Every single one of these problems, from the easy ones to the ones that look really scary, they're all built on the exact same logical foundation. So let's build that foundation together right now.
So what if I told you that you can forget about memorizing a ton of different equations? Seriously, for calculating infusion time, you really only need one core formula. This one little tool is the key that unlocks every single problem we're about to do.
And here it is. Pretty simple, right? The infusion time, and this is important, in hours, is just the total volume you have to infuse divided by the rate. Now, the key here, and this goes right back to controlling your units, is that your rate has to be in milliliters per hour. That's it. Total volume divided by rate. So let's put this thing to work. Okay, time for a practice run. We're going to start with a really straightforward example just to see the formula in action. No tricks, no curveballs, just a direct application of what we just learned. Okay, here are the numbers for our first problem. We've got a total volume of 500 milliliters to infuse, and the pump is set to a rate of 120 milliliters per hour. We have our volume, we have our rate, we have everything we need.
So the big question is, based on those numbers, how long is this infusion actually going to take? Just think back to that one core formula. Okay, your turn. Go ahead and hit pause, grab a calculator, whatever you need, and try to solve it yourself. I'll be right here when you're done. Ready? Okay, first step, we take the volume and divide by the rate. So 500 milliliters divided by 120 milliliters per hour gives us 4.166 hours. Now here's the part that trips people up. You'd never write 0.166 hours on a patient's chart, right? So we have to convert that decimal into minutes. For step 2, you just take that decimal part, the 0.166, and multiply it by 60. That gives you a nice, clean 10 minutes. Then you just put it all together. And there you have it, 4 hours and 10 minutes. If you got that, awesome. You've nailed the core logic. And if you didn't, no worries at all. Just take another look at that decimal conversion. I'm telling you, it's the most common hurdle for everyone. Feeling a little more confident? Good. Let's try one that's a tiny bit harder. The numbers might not be as neat and tidy, but I promise you, the logic and the formula, they are exactly the same. No new tricks, just more practice. So for this next one, we're infusing a total volume of 750 milliliters. The rate is set to 135 milliliters per hour. Again, we've got all the pieces we need to solve the puzzle. All right, let's run it back. How long is it going to take for all 750 milliliters to go in at this rate? You know exactly what to do. Go ahead and hit pause right here. Use that exact same two-step process. You divide and then you convert that decimal. Give it a shot. All right, let's walk through it. First up, 750 divided by 135 gets us 5.55 hours. Then we take that decimal part, the 0.55, and we multiply it by 60 to figure out the minutes. And that gives us 33. Put them together, and you've got your final answer. Boom, 5 hours and 33 minutes. See, the numbers were a little messier, but the process was exactly the same. It just goes to show you, once you get the method down, you can handle any numbers they throw at you. Okay, so we've done the math. But let's talk about why this is so important in the real world. Because this isn't just about passing a test. This is a fundamental skill for keeping your patients safe. Knowing exactly how long an infusion is going to run is absolutely critical. And look, don't just take my word for it. Getting this calculation wrong is not a small mistake. As Jarvis points out in the source material, a mistake here can directly lead to a patient getting too much or too little of a medication. We're talking about an underdose or an overdose. The stakes are incredibly high. And this isn't some rare calculation you'll do once and then forget. You will use this all the time. For IV antibiotics, for fluids, for blood products. It's a core part of a nurse's job to double-check and verify that the completion time set on that infusion pump is correct. This simple math is a critical safety check.
And that's it. That's the whole thing. You started with that med math panic. You learned the one simple formula you need, and you saw how it connects directly to patient safety. You proved that when you control the units, you control the problem. So the only question left is, what are you going to master next?
You know, in the organized chaos of an intensive care unit, that constant beeping of machines is like a soundtrack. But behind all that noise, there's a world of silent, critical calculations happening. These are the kinds of invisible equations that keep incredibly complex systems running and, well, keep people safe. So today, we're going to break one down, a piece of math that seems simple but has the most profound consequences imaginable.
And no, that is not an exaggeration. That's a direct quote from a critical care manual. This isn't some problem you'd find in a textbook. This is a real-time equation that nurses and doctors are solving every single day, right there at the bedside.
So let's really get into why this math is so incredibly critical. The pressure in an ICU is just immense. And it's not just emotional pressure, it's mathematical. The precision that's required is absolute, because the margin for error, it's basically zero.
And this, right here, lays out the stakes in the clearest possible terms. Misplacing a single decimal point isn't just a small mistake, it's a potential catastrophe. We're talking about things that can directly lead to cardiac arrest, a stroke, or total organ failure.
And yeah, we're talking about some seriously powerful, fast-acting drugs. Stuff like vasopressors, which are used to manage dangerously low blood pressure, or sedatives that keep a patient stable and comfortable on a ventilator. These are medications that sustain life, but an incorrect dose, it can end it just as quickly.
So how does this all actually work? Come on, let's put ourselves right in the shoes of a critical care nurse. They are the human interface between this huge, complex medical system and one single life. A doctor writes an order, and that order has to be translated from medical language into a precise number that a machine can actually understand and execute.
Okay, so here's our scenario. The doctor's order is for a drug to be given at a rate of 150 micrograms per kilogram of the patient's body weight every minute. Our patient weighs 92.1 kilograms, and the IV bag we have contains 2.5 grams of that drug mixed into 250 milliliters of solution. So what's the goal? We have to figure out the one number we need to program into that IV pump, the rate, in milliliters per hour. Now I know, looking at all that, it might seem a little overwhelming, but there is a clear, step-by-step process to get to the right answer every single time. It's a 5-step path that takes you from that doctor's order right to the patient's bedside. Let's break it down.
Here's our roadmap. First, we're going to get all our units on the same page. Then we'll figure out the patient's specific dose. After that, we'll determine the drug's concentration in the IV bag. And finally, we'll convert everything into the exact rate that the pump needs to be set to.
All right, step 1. We need to make sure we're speaking the same language, unit-wise. The order is in micrograms, but the drug in the bag is measured in grams. So we've got to convert. 2.5 grams, well, that becomes 2.5 million micrograms. Easy enough.
Okay, next up we have to personalize this dose. The order says 150 micrograms per kilogram, and our patient is 92.1 kilograms. We just multiply those two numbers together, and we find out that this specific patient needs exactly 13,815 micrograms of this medication every single minute. Now, before we jump into step 3, let's quickly hit pause on a super important term here, concentration. All it is really is how much stuff, in this case our drug, is packed into a certain amount of liquid. Getting this concept is the key to the whole next step.
So let's figure out that concentration. We know from step 1 that we have 2.5 million micrograms of the drug in our IV bag. And we know that's all dissolved in 250 milliliters of fluid. So we divide the total amount of drug by the total amount of fluid. And that tells us that every single milliliter of this solution holds exactly 10,000 micrograms of medicine.
Okay, this is where we connect the dots. We're connecting what the patient needs with what's actually in the IV bag. The patient needs 13,815 micrograms per minute. We now know that every milliliter of solution delivers 10,000 micrograms. So we just divide the dose they need by the concentration, and we find out we need to deliver 1.38 milliliters of the solution every minute.
We are almost there. Just one last thing. IV pumps don't really think in milliliters per minute. Their language is milliliters per hour. So this final step is a simple but crucial conversion. We take our rate of 1.38 per minute
and we multiply it by the 60 minutes in an hour. And just like that, we've got our answer. We've gone from all these abstract numbers and different units to a single actionable command, a number that's about to be programmed into a piece of life-sustaining medical equipment. And here it is, the results of all that careful work. 82.8. It's more than just a number. It represents precision. It represents care. And it carries the entire weight of a patient's well-being. That's 82.8 milliliters per hour. This is the number that gets carefully typed into the infusion pump. It's the number that makes sure a life-saving medication is delivered perfectly, not a drop too fast and not a drop too slow.
You know, when you look back on this, it's so clear this was never really just a math problem, was it? Every single step, every conversion, every decimal place, it all carries this immense weight of responsibility.
Because at the end of the day, getting this right, achieving this level of precision, it's not some academic exercise. It's a fundamental act of care. It's about making sure that the person in that bed, who is relying completely on the knowledge and the focus of their care team, gets exactly what they need to survive. It is all about a human life. It really gets you thinking, doesn't it? Behind the scenes of our daily lives, from the hospital room to an airplane's flight deck, what other unseen calculations are out there, quietly and precisely just keeping our world running? All right, today we are jumping into one of the most intimidating skills in nursing, critical care titration math. These are those multi-step problems that can really make your head spin. But honestly, mastering them is absolutely non-negotiable when a patient's life is on the line. So let's dive right in. So take a look at this. I know, at first glance, it's just a wall of numbers and units. But picture this. Your patient's vitals are dropping and you need to adjust their medication drip right now. The real question isn't just, hey, can you do the math? It's, can you do it accurately under immense pressure when it matters most? Today, we're going to make sure your answer is a confident yes. Okay, before we even think about touching a calculator, let's talk about the why. Why is this skill so incredibly important? Because this is not some academic exercise you do for a test. This is about real-time, life-saving decisions.
So think about the setting. We are talking about the most high-stakes environments in any hospital, right? The ICU, the ER, the PACU. In these units, nurses are making these super precise calculations and adjusting drips as often as every 5 to 15 minutes. A tiny miscalculation, well, that could lead to hypotension, arrhythmias, or even hypoxia. At the end of the day, getting this math right is what keeps your patients safe.
I get it. It seems chaotic. But here is the good news. Every single one of these problems actually hands you a clear blueprint to start with. The chaos, well, it's surprisingly organized. So for our first problem, look at this. Everything we need is laid out perfectly. We have the doctor's order, we have the patient's weight, and we have the exact solution that's in our IV bag. There are no tricks, no hidden variables. It is all right there in front of us.
All right, let's do this. We're going to walk through this first one together, step by step. We're going to turn that blueprint of information into a final, actionable answer that we can actually program into our IV pump.
First things first, we have to get all our units to match up. This is so important to avoid errors. You'll notice the order is in micrograms, or mcg, but the solution is in milligrams, mg. So step 1 is a simple conversion. 2,500 milligrams becomes 2.5 million micrograms. Easy enough. Then, to find our concentration, we just divide that huge number by the total fluid volume.
And voila, this number is our new best friend for the rest of the problem. We now know that for every single milliliter of fluid in that IV bag, there are exactly 10,000 micrograms of our medication. This number is the key to unlocking the whole thing.
So next up, we need to figure out the specific dosage for our patient. The order is based on weight, right? It's per kilogram. So we multiply the low end of the order, 50 micrograms, by our patient's weight of 78.7 kilos. And we do the exact same thing for the high end, 100 micrograms. That gives us our personalized dosage range in micrograms per minute.
We are so close. But here's the thing. IV pumps don't speak micrograms per minute. They only understand one thing, milliliters per hour. So we take our dosage range and we divide it by that key concentration number we found, that 10,000 microgram per ml. That tells us how many milliliters to give per minute. And for the final step, we just multiply by 60 minutes to get our rate per hour.
And there it is. The safe titration range for this patient is between 23.6 and 47.4 milliliters per hour. We now have the exact numbers to program into the pump to safely care for our patient. We took that blueprint and we built the solution. See? Not so bad. Okay, now that we've done one, let's do another one. And the point here isn't just to solve another problem, it's to prove that the exact same method, the same blueprint, works every single time, no matter what numbers they throw at you. See? Here's our second problem. It's a different drug, a different patient weight, a different dosage range, everything is different. But look at the structure of the information. It's identical. We have an order, a weight, and a solution. The blueprint is exactly the same.
So let's just fly through the same steps. First, we convert and find our concentration, 1600 micrograms per ml. Done. Next, we calculate the patient-specific dosage range. Then, we divide by our concentration to get mLs per minute. And finally, multiply by 60 to get our mLs per hour. The process doesn't change one bit.
And boom, there's our answer. The final range for our second problem is 4.7 to 46.8 milliliters per hour. By following those same logical steps, we navigated a totally different set of numbers and landed on another safe, accurate answer. It's a system that works.
So, we've nailed the math. But like pretty much everything in medicine, the numbers are only half the story. This calculation is a powerful tool, but it is never, ever a replacement for your professional expertise. And here's the crucial takeaway. I love how the source material puts it. This skill requires dimensional analysis, which is just the fancy term for that step-by-step method we just practiced, plus clinical judgment. The math gives you the safe boundaries, the guardrails, but it's your training, your assessment of the patient that determines where to start within that range and how to adjust.
Which really leaves us with this final thought. We've proven that the math part is a repeatable science. It's a blueprint that gives us a safe range, say from 23.6 to 47.4. But should the right starting dose be 25 or maybe 35? Well, that decision isn't on the calculator. It's based on the patient's blood pressure, their heart rate, their whole clinical picture. And that, right there, that is where the science of calculation ends and the art of nursing truly begins.